The night was unusually cold, even for late October. I stood alone in front of the ancient, decrepit mansion known as the Wraithwood House. Rumors of this place had always sent shivers down my spine, but as an aspiring paranormal investigator, I couldn't resist the urge to explore its haunted history. With my flashlight trembling in my grip, I pushed open the creaking front door. The air inside was thick and suffocating, and the once grand foyer was now a dusty, decaying mess. Faded wallpaper peeled from the walls, revealing glimpses of a bygone elegance. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, the temperature dropped further. A frigid draft whispered through the halls, carrying with it the faint scent of lilacs. The stories had always mentioned the scent of lilacs accompanying sightings of the mansion's ghostly inhabitant. My heart raced as I reached the grand staircase. A haunting melody echoed from the upper floors, the soft notes of a piano that should have been silent for decades. My flashlight flickered in response, and I could hear faint laughter dancing through the chilling air. With trembling steps, I ascended the staircase, my boots echoing through the empty mansion. At the top, a long, dimly lit corridor stretched before me. The melody grew louder, drawing me closer to the source of the ethereal music. The door to a room at the end of the corridor stood ajar. I pushed it open slowly, revealing a scene frozen in time. A woman in a tattered lace-trimmed gown sat at a grand piano, her fingers gliding effortlessly over the keys. She was beautiful, her face a portrait of longing and sorrow. I called out to her, my voice quivering. She turned to me, her eyes hollow but filled with a desperate yearning. Without words, she beckoned me closer, and I approached, captivated by her melancholic presence. Suddenly, a gust of icy wind rushed through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. In the darkness, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and a voice whispered in my ear, "Help me." I stumbled back in terror, fumbling for my flashlight. When the beam of light pierced the darkness again, the room was empty, the woman and the piano vanished. The mansion fell silent, and the lilac scent dissipated. With my heart pounding, I knew I had encountered the restless spirit of Wraithwood House. I fled, vowing never to return, but the haunting melody and the ghostly woman's plea still echo in my nightmares, a chilling reminder of the otherworldly horrors. I still remember that fateful night at Hollow Manor, like it was yesterday. The wind whispered through the ancient oaks, and the moon cast eerie shadows across the crumbling facade. My friends and I had dared each other to spend the night in that forsaken place, thinking it was just an old legend. The clock struck midnight as we gathered in the dimly lit living room. The air grew icy, and my breath hung like fog. A sudden chill ran down my spine. That's when I heard it, a soft, mournful wail echoing from the depths of the manor. We dismissed it as a trick of the wind, our nervous laughter masking our unease. But then the footsteps started. Each creaky floorboard groaned as if someone or something was approaching. Panic gripped me as we huddled together. The footsteps drew closer, growing louder and more menacing. The room seemed to close in on us. And then we saw her, the ghostly figure of a woman, her long, disheveled hair obscuring her face, her tattered gown trailing behind her like a shroud. Her hollow eyes locked onto mine, and a blood-curdling scream tore from her lips, freezing the very marrow in my bones. We stumbled back, terror-stricken, and she advanced, her ethereal form flickering with a malevolent energy. In that moment, I knew there was no escape. Her icy fingers reached out, her touch sending a shockwave of dread through my body. I felt the weight of every sorrow, every tragedy that had ever befallen the manor. It was as if the very essence of the place had become sentient, and it hungered for our souls. One by one, my friends fell to the floor, writhing in torment as their life force was drained away. Their faces contorted in agony, their screams echoing in my ears. I was the last one left, the sole witness to their horrifying demise. The ghostly woman leaned in, her face inches from mine, her breath frigid as death itself. "Join us," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. But I refused. With every ounce of strength I had left, I tore myself away from her grasp and fled through the dark, winding corridors of Hollow Manor. The entire house seemed to shake with rage, but I didn't stop running until I burst through the front door and into the moonlit night. I never returned to Hollow Manor, and I pray that no one else ever does. The legend was real, and the horrors within those walls were beyond imagination. To this day, I can still hear the mournful wail and the echoing footsteps in my nightmares. It was a moonless night when I found myself in an old, abandoned cabin deep in the woods. We had heard the stories, the legend of the phantom butcher who roamed these very woods seeking vengeance for a crime committed long ago. But we were foolish, thinking it was just a local tale. The fire crackled, casting eerie shadows on the cabin's decaying walls. My friends and I had come here seeking a thrill, armed only with our bravery and skepticism. As the wind howled outside, I felt a sense of foreboding wash over me. Suddenly, the room grew ice cold. A guttural, rasping breath filled the air, making my heart race. We exchanged uneasy glances. It was as if the very atmosphere had thickened with dread. The door creaked open, slowly revealing a figure cloaked in tattered rags, face obscured by a blood-stained mask. My heart pounded in my chest as the phantom butcher stepped into the cabin. In one hand, he clutched a gleaming, rusted blade that seemed to hunger for blood. He moved with unnatural speed, slashing through the air, and the room erupted into chaos. My friends screamed in terror as they fell one by one, their bodies contorted in agony. Blood splattered the walls, painting a gruesome tableau of death. I ran, my breath ragged and panicked. The butcher pursued me with relentless determination, his blade inches from my back. Adrenaline surged through me, propelling me deeper into the darkness of the woods. Every tree, every shadow seemed to conspire against me, but I dared not look back. I could hear his ragged breath, his malicious laughter, echoing through the forest. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to claim me. I stumbled and fell to the forest floor, my body battered and bruised. I could feel the butcher closing in, his presence an oppressive weight on my soul. Just as I was about to give in to despair, I spotted a flickering light in the distance, a small, secluded cabin. With the last of my strength, I reached the door and pounded on it, begging for refuge. The door swung open, revealing a kind-faced elderly woman. She took me in without question, offering me warmth and safety. I told her of the horrors I had witnessed, and she nodded knowingly. "The phantom butcher has been seeking vengeance for centuries," she said, "but he can't harm you here. This cabin is protected by ancient magic." As I sat by the fire, my body trembling, I couldn't help but wonder how close I had come to becoming another victim of the phantom butcher's kill spree.